Okay, welcome everybody to this week's timeline jumping Q&A support, and it's great to see everyone here. And on this occasion, um, I've invited some people that are non-members that have seen or maybe haven't seen the original webinar, um, and just have some questions and that they want to ask before joining. So there may be one or two non-members on board as well. And so good to have you all here. Now, on this occasion, I won't be doing any 5 to 10 minute initial kind of training, mainly because I want to make sure I get to everyone's questions, but also because, in case anyone hasn't noticed, at least where I'm living, which is quite in terms of critical, important, sacred grid points and, shall we say, planetary nerve centers, I'm living on one of those sort of grid points, and the energies have been crazy the past few weeks, really, but last few days in particular, especially today. It's all building up to the May 1st Portal of Light activation mass meditation. And I've really I'm doing a lot to organize things and get things together for that, for the 144K meditation group. So crazy times, albeit heading in the right direction. It's just one of those intense times that, we're trying to get to that point where it's all going to diffuse and all this light's going to come in and so forth. So that's why I haven't really prepared any, I don't know, empowering preamble or training, which I sometimes do. And yeah, that's the dealio there. So we're going to jump straight into it. Now, whoever wants to ask a question, just use the just to keep things more organized and orderly, I guess. Look down at where you'll see all those row of icons. You'll see one icon that says reactions. Click on that, then click on raise hand, and I'll get to you right away. And just take it from there, and we'll get through things. And many of you know that have been on this more than once. I make a great lesson out of every question to make sure, everyone, who doesn't ask a question gets a lot out of this. And if no one does have any questions, I can certainly find something to train you on off the cuff. I'm often have had a habit of doing that. Okay. I appreciate the applause, Pat, unless you wanted to click on raise hand and you accidentally clicked on the applause. There we go. But I'll take the applause as well. That's fine. So let's get right into it. Okay. And okay. Go ahead and unmute, Pat.
Thank you. Hi. So some conditions might take longer to clear. I'm dealing with long-term Lyme disease, and I do feel some effects, but I also have a hard time keeping it, maintaining that sense.
Sense of what exactly? Just to make sure I understand.
That I'm making some progress. I feel like I keep going back.
One
step forward.
So you mean 2 steps, 1 step forward, 1 step back? Is that what you mean?
It's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah. I do understand. The truth is, so when you've cleared something, okay, we'll use Soul Fragment Retrieval as the typical example. You clear it, and then, I don't know, a few days later, something else is able to come up to the surface from deep in those depths, right? Because it can. It's actually a small but very significant victory that the next thing that was always underneath the thing that you just cleared, all right, you cleared it, and this is finally able to breathe and come up to the light. And yes, it often causes some havoc of whatever kind. And it feels like it's just one step forward, one step back. The truth is, it's more like one step forward all the time. Okay. That's why, so people that are really onto it now and understand the deal, you got to do this on a regular basis, once a week is enough for most people. And then the next things come up, next thing underneath it comes up, and again, the darkness around it sometimes is volatile, and it causes this to happen, or this emotion to be felt, or fatigue, whatever your predisposed weakness is. Usually, it doesn't always mimic what whatever comes up. You don't always mimic that same kind of suffering or event that's coming up. So one time I was feeling ridiculous fatigue all of a sudden, really bad fatigue for days, making things extremely difficult, as you can imagine. And, after a good night's sleep, doing the usual 3D pragmatic things, logical things that logically would work, nothing was working. Okay. And that's when it's an internal issue. Sometimes external, but mostly internal for most of us. Okay. Something's up. It's come from the depths and come up towards the surface into your outer auric field of this incarnation, and infecting things, playing games. Okay. And that's what happens when the usual logical 3D physical plane steps in solving something don't work. That means when they logically should, whatever pragmatic steps you take in the physical, and they don't work, that means there's a game being played. Something internal is coming up. Okay. So I took this fatigue issue up to the teams, and I showed it to them, followed that process. And then even within minutes after clearing some stuff, I saw and went through that soul fragment retrieval process. I saw myself, it was about 50 years or so. That's what, again, sometimes times are a little bit off. I don't fuss about that. It's about 50 years or so before the fall of Atlantis. And I was, I don't know, some kind of agent, I guess. And I was being chased up what looked like a glacier by about 3 guys. I managed to take them out, but I had to keep on moving and not stop. Okay. And just trudging with every last bit of energy that I had left, going through some sort of a bush or forest, and having trouble. Completely exhausted, absolutely done, but still having to go on. Okay, and then some kind of, I don't know. To me, it was kind of like a bear, was as far as I could make out, because not everything's going to come out clearly, and that's fine. You don't have to see things crystal clear at all. And just burst through some bushes and just knock me over. Okay. Anyway, although that wasn't the trauma, interestingly, was the exhaustion and not being able to afford to stop. So I retrieved myself out of that. And yeah, lo and behold, the fatigue was gone. So that's one example of how I feel a typical example of how things come up. And even though you cleared something else the previous week and you were great, things were going good, and then bam, this next thing comes up and causes whatever fatigue, sickness, some whatever negative emotion, or sometimes the car or computer stops working or an appliance stops working, and whatever the symptoms whatever the symptoms are, and that's the kind of usual games that they play. Okay, the infection, the darkness around a given soul fragment or negative past life event, usually. And so it feels like you're just continuously hitting this wall. Okay. And yeah, you're not moving forward. So one thing I can tell you about that from many years of personal experience is that every time you clear something, yes, the next thing beneath it is finally able to come up, but that thing that's finally able to come up, that's been weighing you down a lot in terms of your overall frequency and vibration, therefore affecting your ability to attract bigger and better things. It's all weighing you down. And every time, and playing games from a deeper place because there's stuff on top of it. Okay. Still giving off that resonant frequency and coming out of your auric field and bodies, and therefore manifesting out there. So every time you do such a thing, such a clearing, more and more, well, how do I put this? Think of, because the whole aura, as one great mentor said, is kind of like a portal. And think of that portal or your aura covered up in mud, okay, which is the case for the majority of people. And every time you do a soul fragment retrieval, being the best example, it's not always a soul fragment issue, but again, as an example, you remove, it's like getting an ice cream scoop and remove that piece of mud off of your soul. Okay. And that bright, shining hole of your soul is able to shine through your whole aura. And you do that more and more and more until all those holes start to appear, and more light rather than blockages and interference is now coming through, the light from your soul. And that's a critical thing, fundamental to raising your vibration. Otherwise, raising your vibration is very temporary. Okay, very brief. And we all know that to be the case. Okay, you're up and down, and and you're more dependent on, I don't know, something external to draw some kind of happiness from, whether it's a cup of coffee or a TV show or an internet show or talking to a friend. Whereas getting that ice cream scoop and taking off the mud that stands between you, your life, and your soul, and its natural intrinsic abundance that it's already vibrating at. Okay. That is kind of like the equivalent of having all your chakras totally optimized, where I've seen the expression "be happy about nothing." You're more apt to be happy about nothing. You're just that way because enough of your soul is shining, more of your soul's light is shining through, and less of the mud that's been covering it up. Because rest assured, mud certainly has a very strong, albeit very dense vibration. And which then brings us to the next question. Well, how long does it take? This is part of the reason why I pioneered the ICB, it's good to do the ICB every once in a while. Okay, once a week if you can help it. But initially, it's good to do the soul fragment retrieval a few times for your rational adult mind to sort of get a grip on it and get used to it and practice at it. And then you can stress your mind a little further with the ICB. So every time you do this, that which holds your vibration goes higher, but in a more solid foundational sense. Okay. Really fundamental. Okay. Really fundamental. And treat it like a bit of a movie. Whenever you go through that soul fragment retrieval process, treat it like a bit of a movie. What's there, and it teaches you trust. It teaches you to be able to trust in yourself, because there is a certain amount in trusting in what you see or think you see. Is that just my imagination? Really, there's no such thing as imagination. All that imagination is the highest. Imagination is simply one of the highest forms of consciousness. That's very right brain hemisphere orientated. Okay. That's why you sort of, again, during that audio, during that process, when you dive in to take a look, you sort of let go and detach and go neutral as if you're under a hypnosis kind of thing. It allows better communication between the two hemispheres of the brain. Now, fundamental stuff. The ICB does clear a hell of a lot more. Yes, that's true, but get used to soul fragment retrieval for the first few weeks. Okay. Again, this is the kind of thing that a lot of healers, if not most healers, don't even do. Okay. Yeah, it's okay to hire one from time to time, but don't get dependent on them. Learn to trust yourself. Again, I'm talking from experience of making that mistake as well. Hello, Aranka. Nice to have you here. So now just quickly with you, Pat. So just to clear that up, okay. No, yes, it feels or seems or it's really a perception that you're taking one step forward and one step back. At a minimum, you're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But that 1 step back part, that's what you jump on straight away, preferably within the hour, preferably within the same day. If you can't do it within the hour, take it up to the teams, show them what just happened whenever you feel like you've taken 1 step back. And then you more quickly take another 2 steps forward, again, quicker. Okay. So don't worry. In other words, you're not necessarily taking 1 step forward, 1 step back. Okay. Focus on taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, perhaps. But the 1 step, make it brief by being proactive and going up to the teams. If you can help it. Sometimes we can't do it till the following day. That's certainly happened to me. And again, where we're doing this within the backdrop of massive planetary transition. Okay, real massive planetary transition. A lot of, what's the analogy I can use? Planetary level detox symptoms. That's causing a lot of energetic wonkiness, a bit of chaos. You can't really just not worry about anything kind of thing and just go on about your day. A lot of people have that. April was a hard month, and there's a lot of intense clearing on the etheric plane, which has caused all sorts of upheaval. And it's all building up to May 1st, where there's going to be a huge influx of light, which is going to kick up a lot. And obviously that's already starting to happen. I'm having to do how many impromptu clearings on the planet. So limes. I don't want to leave that one out, Pat. With limes, there is stuff that can actually cure it. MMS, Miracle Mineral Solution. And if that doesn't work, you can add DMSO. I may do are you a one? I'm pretty sure you're a 144K member. Is that the case, Pat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And Lyme's, unfortunately, is somewhat common. Okay. Never mind protein shedding, spike protein shedding. So I think I'll do send out a general email recommending people MMS, although I have to be careful because of the authorities and not being able to make medical recommendations. But go to Rumble, type in the universal antidote MMS, and then type in DMSO. Now, what my partner did was she actually ordered Jim Humble's book. He's the guy behind MMS, Jim Humble. So if you just type into Amazon or look him up on the search engines at search.brave.com or Google if you're willing to take the risk. Jim Humble official website, MMS. It should bring it up. You know, it's got a blue sort of website. Order his book from Amazon. There's a part on how you combine MMS with DMSO for Lyme's. And really, a lot of us should be taking MMS periodically anyway. It's very powerful stuff. So just do that and allow me, and thank you for your question, Pat. So let me just move on to, or see if, let me just check the chat. So go ahead and if you don't have a question, just say, talk about something. I'm sure I can find something. All right. That's the chat. Okay. All right, Matt, you are next. There we go. All righty. Okay,
Hey,
go
Jim.
ahead, Matt. I should be able to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my biggest thing, I guess, is just either for myself personally or for people in general, what tends to be the biggest financial energetic block to that's keeping people from going to the next level financially. So for me, I guess personally, it's wanting to take better care of my family, wanting to bring in obviously more money, better finances, that kind of thing. If that
Okay.
makes sense.
Gotcha. So step number one, and this goes for everybody. Step number one is, if you've had a few goes at doing the soul fragment retrieval, or even just 2 goes, okay, do the ICB. All right, you go up and you show them the teams this struggle, okay, because ultimately it's all pain. It's just different forms of pain. All right, in your case, centered around your love for your family, wanted to provide for them to be happy, not struggle in any way, and also being a man. When a man can't do that, it also has a very emasculating effect. Okay, you'll want to show them that as well. And what you'll want to do is go through, as a step one, go through your entire, pretty much your soul history. It'll be mostly on this planet, because this is the planet where most, if not all, some form of scarcity, not just economic and monetary hardship, but some form of scarcity, occurred. because it's more rigged that way deliberately. And you use that as kind of like a theme, an overall theme that you can go vertical with instead of layer by layer by layer, which is your standard healing method. Fairly the most common standard healing method. And you go down to the core event that casts that original die of not being able to provide and or struggling financially. Scarcity, no resources. Okay. They're sort of interrelated. They're sort of permutations of the one thing. And so you want to go for that one thing in terms of the core event. And, whenever we go through a struggle, we make an unconscious vow, vows and whatever, negative agreements with entities after we died because we couldn't we couldn't provide for a person, and that led to your death. And somehow you don't have to work out all the ins and outs. I'm just saying, make sure you retrieve that soul fragment that's in that original core event, where lack of abundance, unable to provide, and scarcity. Just focus on those three things. Really, in a sense, pour your heart out, in a sense, to a degree with the teams, and show them, again, as the audio would guide you into, show them the current symptoms, because ultimately, whatever we're struggling with now, ultimately it's just symptoms that we attracted or manifested, mostly from within. There are external factors, and if you're a 144K member, they're being dealt with well and truly. Make no mistake about that. But get rid of any kind of negative event, vow, agreement, whatever, caused from not having enough. So it's not just about financial well-being. Financial is just one aspect of not having enough, of scarcity. Go for what's right at the bottom with that original core event that casts that original die that led to where you are now, specifically around finances and abundance. Okay. I'll send you the recording for this if you want me to. Okay. So you can, if you need to, listen to it one more time and sort of kind of ruminate on it, in that somewhat meditative way for a few hours. I sort of do that leading up to a significant clearing. I sort of ruminate and meditate on something as I'm, going about in the house, doing something simple or whatever, and go for it. And upon that being done, let's just say, because I need to be conservative about this, all right, you'll have a much easier time attracting or tripping over that right 3D vehicle, whether it's a job, a contract, a business opportunity, online, whatever it is. Okay. Your chances of attracting the right thing that you've been, so-called waiting for, goes up by a fair bit, at least 80%, if not 100%. And because you've risen to that timeline where you therefore found the vehicle that brings that abundance. Okay. Keep in mind, there is a planetary wide restriction of abundance, at least for now, before it all gets cleared, but you can still do it. So any questions around that, Matt? Okay, let me see.
No, sir, that makes sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. And just go for it. Don't be afraid of anything in terms of trying to get it right. Be a bit light about it, because it just helps the energies and the intuition flow a lot easier. In spite of the circumstances, that's still the best way to handle it. But your heart's intent will push it through. So yeah, go for it. Okay. And any problems, just let me know later in a couple of weeks. And yeah, once it's done, then you can renew that effort in looking for the right way in terms of practical, pragmatic ways to transform your family's financial situation. Okay, but it's always best to do the energy work first that led you to this position, clear all the garbage, ascend onto the timeline, the better timeline, and then do the 3D physical action steps. That's a general rule that I've always told people for years. Alrighty. Let me see if anyone else has a good question such as that. Let me check the chat. New messages. All right, Lisa. Hi, would you be able to send me the recording as well, please? Thank you. Yes, I will. Give it a couple of hours, but I'll send you the recording of this because, yeah, it is fairly fundamental, what I've just been talking about, and good idea to get a firm understanding, a good grip on it. Alrighty. Alrighty, fantastic. There's Matt. Okay, Pat. Deborah Cutler. Good to see you on, Zoe. All right. Yep, there we go. Go ahead, Pat.
And talk about different realms, and I'm just wondering, do you have a good place for me to see like a listing of the realms or a diagram so that I better understand?
Okay. Because I don't know of any resource offhand that explains it, with the and you're not going to find it on Google, to be frank. And I recommend everybody take a look, at Brave Search. The URL for that is search.brave.com. That has very little, if any, kind of censorship or suppression of good, very legitimate things that talk about the non-physical realities. So do you have a pen and paper handy, Pat?
Yes.
Okay. Just start from the bottom and just write physical plane.
Okay.
Okay. Then, I don't know, about an inch above, write astral plane.
Okay.
Then about an inch above that, write etheric plane. Then
Good.
above that, write mental plane. Then causal plane. And then above that, plasma plane and just draw kind of like lines, horizontal lines above and below each word, just to help with the right hemisphere brain. Now, there is things like the Buddhic plane, the emotional plane, something like at least 9 of them. You know, if you don't have to know all of them, you don't have to know all the ins and outs and details of each one. It's not really necessary, but it is handy to just to have that basic orientation, which is all that I've had for the longest time. And and sometimes, more on the rare occasion, some soul fragments do need to be done on either the etheric plane or astral plane, typically. The majority of the time, I don't recall retrieving anything of myself in terms of soul fragment retrieval from the plasma plane or anything. Although I tend to categorize any of the non-physical planes into one sort of category, and don't worry about which specific one it is. Just get yourself out of there. Okay, it's all you need to worry about. So that'll orientate you for now, Pat. And
Thank you.
Yeah, don't be too fussed.
Great.
What you know there is enough to keep you going. Okay. Where's the chat? Okay, let me make sure I haven't missed any. New messages. All right. What is the general economy for US looking like for the near future, as the dollar concern? The economic crash will happen sometime in October or November. The big caveat being that's on the current timeline. Okay. After May 1st, let alone May 5th and 6th, which is an eclipse, which is also huge. Okay, because eclipses, I just found out today, is all about endings and beginnings, or cutting off stuff and beginning something else, or something to that effect. So we got 2 big timeline jumps coming up in the next 6 days. So after that, things will after that, the timelines are going to change again, and the moment of when things are going to happen economically is going to change again. Okay. Although it might not change in terms of timeline, it'll simply change in terms of severity and duration, because we're on a high timeline. Again, I'm talking from experience with this sort of thing. So as of now, around about October, and if we raise the timelines, it'll be any kind of crash will be quite short, like a matter of days. That's how it looks on the high timeline. And, other than that, it's still going to be largely the same. Inflation is still going to be the way it is. I suspect it'll really jump up just before the crash. And that's the deal there. In other words, don't worry too much about it, or don't put too much focus or concern about it. You're way better off raising your own personal frequency through that internal work, because that still moves you up in timelines and helps you avoid the worst of whatever's going to happen economically. And the dollar will be recovered, gold backed by gold, and strong again. it'll be fine. Do you know what is the difference between astral travel and visualization? So an astral travel is when you know, without any effort or intent, even, your astral body leaves your physical body. Okay. And there's a silver cord that certainly David Wilcock helped popularize. And you go to the astral plane, a particular plane. Okay. Now, visualization, that's more like where you just travel with your consciousness, not with any of your body. Although there isn't kind of like a spiritual body aspect to it, I suppose, but it's mostly just your consciousness that does it in a more manual way. You know, you sit down, you calm yourself, you focus, you do the intent, and you focus on where you want to go. You, quote unquote, imagine yourself going to that place, or ask your teams or your higher self or your I am to take me there, and they start showing you the image, or just hold your intent to see a given image or location. Okay. And that's, again, remote viewers in the CIA, that's more like what they do, which obviously, you know, I doubt that the CIA does any astral traveling, you know. And if you're really curious, you know, there's the Farsight Institute.org, I believe. I think they teach how to do remote viewing on the physical plane. Because really, when you're doing a soul fragment retrieval, you're really doing a form of remote viewing. Okay, because with your consciousness, you can literally go anywhere. Just dial in the intent. Okay, and hold the intent and allow it to happen. It's not really one of those trying things. It doesn't really work that way. So that's the difference. Okay, obviously there's way more, especially once you get, you know, used to it and know that, yeah, this is real, I can do it. You know, visualization, so-called, again, it's kind of like another misnomer, like junk DNA or imagination. Visualization is way more versatile. Okay, like no comparison, because I remember one guy, I was on a radio show, and, you know, he asked, this guy's audience member asked him, whenever I astral travel, I can't seem to go up past a certain height in altitude on the astral plane, for that matter. You know, well, what's going on? So he can't go through, I don't know, 30,000 feet or whatever the equivalent is above the surface. And I told them, well, that's because of the grids, the whole veil, quarantine Earth grid thing, you know. And I told them, use visualization, because your consciousness really is already everywhere already. Okay. And that's why I tell people to just balance, you know, calm, don't try, balance yourself when doing this sort of work. Be light about it, because it helps the right hemisphere brain get over those left hemisphere brain rigidities and programs, because there's sort of no limits to the way your right hemisphere brain sort of thinks. You know, again, this is why I recommend, you know, a good brainwave entrainment audio, because it helps balance and connect the two. Very, very healthy mentally. And it calms you down as well, you know, because even though it's, you know, difficult, you might be in a difficult situation, you've probably heard it all before, the power of the now. When you're in the now enough and still enough, in other words, you're able to, the answer's always there. The answer was always there. It reminds me of a time when I used to do one-on-ones. I would do one-on-ones for a guy and sometimes his wife, and they started, over several weeks, started going up in timelines, and they finally noticed how beautiful a park is right near their house. You know, the park was always a 1 or 2 or 5 minute walk away, pretty much next door. And they actually went to it one day and they realized, I've always seen it. I always know it's there. I've always looked at it, driven past it, whatever, walked past it. This time they went to it and they realized, wow, I had no idea this park was this beautiful. See, that's the difference between a timeline, a higher timeline and a lower timeline, even though the space location is the same space. So it really is about your frequency, your vibration, and getting rid of that mud between you and the naturally abundant soul of light of your soul. Okay. All right. So that's the difference between the astral travel and visualization, and totally good and reasonable question. And let me see, bring it down a bit. Aranka, what can be done or we can do to help us and our pets deal with and stop the pain from severe EMF, wireless radiation, pressure cooking our brain cells and cellular body, and especially from 5G radiation? I have been dealing with EMS with pain for 7 years now, thank you, and I live with Wi-Fi or near people with routers. Have to use EMF shielding. Okay. So the first things first is get a smart meter guard on your smart meter. And sometimes we'll live in townhouses or apartments where there's a bank of smart meters. They're nasty. We're through that when we were briefly in Austin back in early 2017, late 2016, just for about 6 weeks. And it caused electrical problems in our car. So it's a bit of an investment, but worth it. They're a good solid construction. Again, go to search.brave.com, type in smart meter guard, and it'll come up. And that website sells Wi-Fi guards. And gizmos like this, okay, that beams out, neutralizing frequencies. All right, I'll keep it underneath my laptop. That's the name of the company there. So if I remember correctly, it's QUwave.com or is it .org? Anyway, should come up. And just get something like this. And because with you, Aranka, yeah, you're in a bad spot, but I suspect you're also very sensitive to EMFs. But you also notice it. You really notice your sensitivities. So, and if you can't afford the smart meter guard, get some sort of mesh material, like kind of like what they have on Windows screens. Go to the hardware store, find some sort of a metallic mesh, and just put 2 layers of it over the smart meters and tape it. Okay, try to do a good job, because otherwise it might not impress your neighbors, because it still has to look neat and clean. And you can do that as well. That'll go a long way. And yeah, I understand where you're coming from in terms of EMF sensitivities. Okay, so certainly take that action. All right, next question is, do you connect with any Andromeda race that has human revs on 3D Earth? That is benevolent and will share their advanced methods of anything we wish to know for shielding, healing, help, and knowledge. Okay, so to be able to, first of all, to be able to receive their messages and hear them, psychically, initially, you would probably have to go to a park or a forest, anywhere where there's very little EMFs. Okay. And if it's Andromedans you want to get in contact with, I know Tolek, if you remember him, Tolek, Tolec. Just type in, again, you're better off using Brave search instead of Google. Type in Tolec Andromeda Council. It should bring up his name. You might be able, he's had a connection with Andromedans. It's actually an Andromedan contactee. Get in touch with him. Check out his website. If it's specifically Andromedans that you want to connect with, especially if they're your galactic family, then it's understandable, or that's your galactic heritage. But otherwise, just call out to the Pleiadians and Sirians or Agathans. They're sort of, in various ways or various different aspects, closest to us, okay, in terms of frequency and even in terms of altitude. The Pleiadians, Sirians, and Agathans, you can call out to them as well. But anyway, that's my recommendation there. Typically, now this is not an absolute, but typically you need to have that, you need to establish your own relationship with your own soul first. That really is your foundation. Really care and I suppose show love to its well-being. And because that needs healing. Almost completely in the form of soul fragment retrieval, but that needs healing. Okay. As you do that, your frequency goes up. Your frequency draws closer and closer to the very high frequency of positive off-worlders or inner earthers, But certainly try to make contact with them, because especially after the May 5th and 6th eclipse and the May 1st portal light activation, it will be comparatively easier to make contact with them, if not a lot easier. But you got to learn to listen to your own guides. You got to learn to listen to your own higher self by paying attention to those internal ears. Okay, over simple things. That's where you want to start. Okay, Jane Hoffman, please send recording. Thank you. Great info today and on last blog talk. Thank you, Jane. Do you think full truth regarding our history with Draco interference with humanity and more the pedo stuff will be told at all? Do you think any deals have been made like in World War I? Yeah, everything's going to be released, but we're going to get the full information, which we obviously already have, and the unconscious majority will receive all that information on a more comparatively more longer term basis, because they can only handle so much. And deals like the ones made in World War II and after World War II, they're sort of pretty much all broken or redone anyway. Nothing to worry about. We want real truth henceforward, so we can move to high 4D and 5D. Gratitude for you and your work. Sure thing, Jane. Zoe, is being sick with something like cancer, Lyme disease, etc., ever just a random event? Or is there always some energetic or entity interference component to it? And should we always do a soul fragment retrieval for any sickness just in case? So does being sick with something like cancer, Lyme's disease, etc., is ever just a random event? Okay. Generally, the answer to that is a definite no. Or is it always some energy or entity interference component to it? Okay. So the way disease works, okay, it's either from an internal cause or an external cause. Okay. But either way, you attracted it. All right. Now, so external cause is environmental factors, often, literally and deliberately, done by the cabal. Okay. And or sometimes it's the usual dis-ease, something not at ease within your internal non-physical aspects, okay, that you need to just transmute, all right, or close up if it's a portal. And so step number one is you go up to the teams, you show them the disease or whatever it is that you're suffering from, and you inquire with them, show me the cause of this. You know, they may do some, you may see them doing some initial clearing, all right, because sometimes there's stuff covering up stuff, okay. And so let me sort of awkward to articulate. And chances are, even if it's in an external cause, an environmental factor in your external, you'll still want to do soul fragment retrievals or an ICB on any lifetime where you suffered from some kind of disease, whether it's a skin disease or a bacteria, gut infection from 1307, whatever. Okay. People had leprosy back in antiquity, so on and so forth. What you want to do is get rid of all your past history where you got some sort of disease and suffered from it. All right. To do two things. One is the external cause not connecting and kind of synergizing with your internal predispositions from current or past lives. Okay. And then they sort of do this. And secondly, it allows you to, well, let's just say greatly increases your likelihood of going up to a timeline where the environmental cause just is either dealt with or taken care of. You know, the neighbor with the 5G Wi-Fi moves out, or the chemtrails stop all of a sudden. You know, that sort of thing, you know, magically starts to happen. Okay. Because there's nothing from the external that can latch on anything predisposed internally. And or you find an opportunity to move to a better place. If it's again, an external environmental cause, you know, that's a kind of thing that tends to happen. Or you're able to all of a sudden afford a Q-wave device and have it with you all the time. You know, because sometimes the frequencies cause disease. Or you come across MMS with DMSO, which is another sort of chemical. And that gets rid of your limes, you know, after a couple of goes at trying to clear this internally. And then lo and behold, you end up here on a call like this, and you discover the resource. You know, discovering the resources that basically solves the problem very rarely happens if you're on a timeline that still has or had that long history of having similar sorts of problems in the past. Okay. That's why you work on it internally, do it twice if you have to. Follow the advice on the second time. You may want to follow the advice that I gave to Matt. Just apply it to health and disease, and then, you ascend in timelines, and lo and behold, that's a timeline where you get that opportunity to move out, or you trip over the right resource that you needed. Okay. So 99% of the time, that's step one. And remember, sometimes clearing a couple of entities can present just the right opportunity or resource or phone call that you needed. It can be as simple as that. All right, keep that in mind. You go up to the teams when a problem really isn't going away, even after taking perfectly logical 3D steps that would normally solve a problem. Okay, when all that doesn't work and you've cleared some entities, nothing really changing, then you go up for sure. So that's the answer there, Zoe. I hope that answers it. Let me see here. So it's not just a random event. Well, and sometimes it is almost strictly, though not completely, because there's always environmental toxins to a degree, but sometimes it is strictly an internal cause. Okay, which in one way is easier because you clear it in terms of what caused it, the core event in this current life or past life. Okay, and it could be something not related to health. It could be something emotional, an emotional trauma from your childhood in this lifetime or many years ago that is still sitting there in your emotional body. Okay, it could be that that's something that you really have a dis-ease about. Was something bad done to you when you were young, or even as a young adult, and you've never really gotten closure on that, processed it, understood it, detached from it, and it's been sitting there vibrating away, that horrible dis-ease within you. That can happen. I remember one guy, he was basically sexually molested, sexually assaulted when he traveled to a city when he was 18, and never spoke of it, kept it totally hidden by another male, and him being straight. Didn't say anything about it, and then shortly after 50 years old, all of a sudden he's got some sort of a head tumor or something like that, or cancer tumor that just went out of control. And I know that's what it was. Okay, that horrible event for him, as a straight guy, I guess, was always sitting there, churning away. That's why getting used to doing energy work on yourself, internal work on yourself, is so beyond crucial. All right. And you always opt for that first before hiring some healer. Okay. Because some healers, they either don't do the right kind of healing or they don't go deep enough, but they do often give you information. They do often give you some information that then you can use to get onto it. You know what I mean? With the audios. All right, we need to start wrapping up. I know all about smart meter guards, make my own good. The issue is the router's power lines and cell antennas nearby. Cell antennas are an issue. That's where you'll want to get, you can get shungite, little shungite pyramids, and put them along the window. or part of the side of your house or wall facing the cell tower. That does help. But I find a Q-Wave device, you know, they got new ones these days, a bit more effective. Well, a lot more effective, really. Okay. And there's other devices that are out these days. Doesn't have to be from that particular company as well. So yeah, cell towers and routers, power lines. That's what you do for those. All right, great. Thank you. Okay, time for a confession. I need glasses. Beata Joy. Thank you, Beata. All right. Lisa, for the first time in 3 years, I'm living in fear. Okay, I'm really scared of flying. No, just leave them on this time. I'm really scared of flying. Okay, I've done hours of meditation to raise my vibration, but still living in fear. I'm flying the 10th of May. Do you have any advice how to deal with the fear? Yeah, transmute the damn entity. Transmute the entity. Transmute one more for good measure. Make sure your auric membrane is sealed, meaning that one color, whatever color you want to choose, I'll use green. Make sure that's sealed. And then look for a portal. Okay, so see your body holographically. And the portal, it'll actually show you, you'll actually see the portal instantaneously. The split moment you just casually glance there, fill it with white light, and then close it. Okay, and watch it disappear. So check for a portal of that. They can really screw with people. They're not very pleasant things. That's my advice on that. And give it a couple of days. All right, or 72 hours. If it does come back up, it could be just another entity that's just focusing on what you're predisposed to fearing, what would make you fear or scared. Clear that. And if it doesn't go away pretty much for good, then you do soul fragment retrieval. Okay. So that's my advice there. And good questions, everybody. You know, thank you for being on. We're over the hour. And, you know, this is plenty of great information for you to re-listen to. So needless to say, listen to this again and again. Yeah, loads of value in today's call. So that's fantastic. And again, to finish off, if the energies overall on the planet, there's a lot of upheaval. Okay, a lot of upheaval because of the coming huge influx of light that's going to come in through the planet on Monday. And it's going to start Sunday night, really. Again, we're seeing signs that it's already started, or at least the symptoms or effects of it. Okay. Yes, it's great to be with you too, Zoe. And, you know, I'm not having an easy time with it. You know, we're all on the one planet. So, yeah, great seeing you all. And we will, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time on what is almost certainly going to be a very different timeline. Thanks, Beata. And go for it. Re-listen to this and play. Okay? In spite of everything. And really go for it. Again, classic old case of persistence. Really, really is worth it. Okay, fantastic. See you all soon. Nice to see you on today's call, Jordan. And I'll see you all next time. All right, bye-bye.